Recorded live from Studio 12A in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. You're listening to the Josh and Friends Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends Podcast. I am your host. My name is Josh. And this week's guest is the man who helped to start it all. He's the one who originally said to focus on the stories that we can all relate to. The people who you genuinely have a connection to. Anyone could read off a list of questions that have been asked a million times to an old celebrity. And that's all fine and dandy, but it's always more fun to talk to the people that you have a real connection with from the past. And that's what my next guest has always stressed. I embarked on this journey 1 year ago this week to share with the world some of the most interesting experiences with my friends and family. And today's guest, well, he's back. He is back, baby. And we have some more fun stories to share, so reach down between the legs, ease the seat back, and enjoy the show. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome back my good buddy and the Paver King himself, Mr. Lee Olson. All right, Lee, welcome back to the show, man.
Thanks, man. I'm feeling kind of like a regular here. Am I a co-host yet? When do you get sidekick status?
Dude, you're right in that league, man. You're right in that league.
Am I Andy Richter to your Conan?
You could
Am
be.
I there yet?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a more topical reference than I would have used. I would have used the...
You would have used Ed McMahon, but
yeah.
I can't go straight to Ed McMahon.
Yeah,
because that would have been... First of all, it's really old, but second, he was there for like 30 years. We're not there yet. I'm just starting here.
That's true. Well, I mean, I've known you for quite some time.
Right, but as far as sidekick go, maybe I'm Guillermo to your Kimmel.
Ooh, that's pretty good. Except,
yeah, I mean, like every once in a while I get on.
Did you say
like
you're the Guillermo?
More than regular guests, but not as much as Matt Damon.
Well, how about Adam Carolla and Jimmy
No,
Kimmel?
he doesn't let anyone else talk.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It used to be him and Bald.
Yeah, Bald Brand. Yep.
But now he doesn't let anybody else talk. He just rants and then
that's
people
true.
nod.
That is true. So how's Indiana doing, man?
I don't know, man. It's fucking Indiana.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could be living in Indiana right now too, so it doesn't really. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. So, yeah.
You know, that is an interesting thing because I did notice, and I have mentioned during a pandemic, you really find out how not bad your place is,
right?
If you can just settle down and not really see much of a difference.
Oh yeah, totally.
Hey, no problems here, man. 15 minutes away in Chicago, there's a few problems, but
right.
Here, nothing, man.
Yeah. So, how long have you been living in Indiana now?
Since 2013. So
wow, it's pretty good.
Coming up on 8 years.
You're pretty much considered a Hoosier now, right?
Yeah, I guess I am.
What is the point?
No, I mean,
of time that you need to be in a place where you become that actual, a
that's a good question. I don't think it happens like that. I think you're wherever you start from, and sort of that's like you'll always be a Central Wildcat. Even if you went to Harvard after this, you wouldn't be like, I'm from Harvard. You'd be like, I'm a Seawoo Wildcat. It's wherever you kind of go first.
Okay, so are we Gators?
Oh, good question. No, never mind. Yeah, maybe that doesn't work.
Okay, so
but I'm not a Hoosier yet.
Okay, all right. So I've been really enjoying your puppy posts on Facebook. Your puppy dog posts,
man. Well, I mean, look, 2020 has enough grim news, and I don't need to tell this to anybody who is on your Facebook, but you are the Facebook Grim Reaper. I don't know if you have an alert set on your phone, but if somebody somewhere that someone once knew dies, you have it on before any other major news outlet.
Well, except the last one. The last one, you were literally ready. You're like, I'm waiting, dude. I'm refreshing, and I'm like, dude, I'm at work. I can't be that good. Well, that was a big one.
That's how bad it's gotten. Is people are scooping you now when they hear someone died. They tell you first. It's like, oh shit, I gotta tell Josh this person died.
Right. I do get these important leads over the years, like with the Seahawks page that I run.
Right.
That happens too. People like send me a lead. They're like, dude, did you hear? And I'm like, I didn't hear anything. What are you talking about? Like, So people that are like,
right.
Like Rich, who's, literally just always refreshing Twitter. In. Yeah, exactly.
So I just thought I'd brighten up your posts a little bit because it's just always grim news. And I thought, you know what? For every one of your death posts, I'm going to go find a little puppy that needs a home, and I'm going to post it on your comments.
And you always match up the name, too, of the person?
Yeah, I try to do that. It's a nice way to do it. You find a puppy named the same first name as the person who died.
Right.
Kind of connects, man.
Yeah, so the latest news, this is probably, I mean, Kobe's even bigger still because he's really young, and healthy and very, like, literally in the prime of his life, not necessarily the prime of his career because he retired, but but Eddie Van Halen dying.
Yeah, I think that's bigger than Kobe in a lot of ways, except not really, because he was on the health bubble for a long time. I mean, Eddie Van Halen was not healthy for
time. So Eddie Van Halen, the guitarist of Van Halen, one of the greatest guitarists of all time, and nobody really disputes that unless you're Rolling Stone, who puts like Sleater Kinney as a better guitarist than him.
That's their gig. They're contrarians, so they get people to argue over them. It's the only way people read Rolling Stone.
I mean, it is funny. You're like, what the hell? What is this? Yeah.
Well, I mean, they may have pioneered the antagonistic sort of catch your attention sort of thing. They know that if they can get people arguing, they're talking about them.
Exactly.
All the
Did you
news
hear that
outlets
Rolling Stone article?
They said this, and then you're arguing about it, and then they get you to look.
Exactly.
Whereas if you say Jimi Hendrix is the best guitar player of all time, people nod and go, yeah.
Right. So, did you ever see Van Halen live in concert?
I never did. I don't think so.
Yeah, because I know you and I saw the Sam and Dave tour. Yes. Sammy Hagar and David Lee Roth, which was that was kind of cool, except for Sammy was playing that suck fest of himself.
Right.
But so we saw that concert, and then later, I don't know, it was a few years later, I saw the the reunion with Wolfie.
Yeah.
On bass instead of what's his name? Yeah, Michael Anthony. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. I mean, it was really cool to see him live. And someone already posted like him playing Eruption at that concert. I was like, whoa.
Oh yeah. I saw that
cool,
comment,
man.
And your friend said he got the pic that he threw out like in the video. That's pretty rad.
Yeah, I saw his seats were a little different than my seats.
Yeah, he had passes.
He had backstage passes. He had like, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, we definitely were not running into each other at that concert.
Right. What was that? That was like 2007?
Yeah, 2007.
All right. Is that the only time you saw Van Halen?
Yep. Now, to our generation, we're kind of like the second wave fans of Van Halen as far as like, first run of Van Halen.
I mean, I was 3 when Van Halen 1 came out.
Right. So like the people that are older than us, they're like, dude, when I first heard Eruption, it was like, it really is like that moment in Back to the Future where you're like seeing an alien because you don't understand. You're like, how is that even possible that that's coming out of that person's guitar? Because nothing like that ever sounded like that. And it's funny because if you go back to like 1978, you listen to the stuff that's coming out right around that time. It is crazy to hear that that guitar like in that era. So I get it.
And it's so clear that Eddie Van Halen was a genius because he invented that, as far as we know. Like maybe he ran into some, Robert Johnson at the Crossroads guy and never told anybody.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it is exactly like you said. Like there were great guitar players before.
Oh yeah.
Eddie Van Halen. I mean, there were great rock guitar players, and yet nobody had done anything close to that. Like he came out of the gates, and everyone just went, "Holy shit!"
He's one of those mad geniuses that his idol was. I think he said it was Eric Clapton, which is wildly different than his style.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is cool because like I always, people don't understand like it's so funny because influence is so huge in people's lives where you hear like I heard in an interview Ozzy Osbourne talking about who his influences were, and he doesn't even pause. He just says the Beatles right off the bat, like the Beatles. And to take even further, when Paul McCartney came into the Howard Stern show in 2001 and Ozzy was on first. It was kind of going to be like they were kind of like both on the show.
Right.
And backstage, there's video of this. There's a short video clip of Ozzy meeting Paul McCartney for the first time, right? In 2001. And he is starstruck. He is starstruck.
Right.
And it's like, whoa, dude, like you have like the metal god Ozzy Osbourne, which people are like, wait, Ozzy Osbourne, but Black Sabbath is like a Beatles kind of like, yeah, but like, think about that. Like, the year before Sabbath came out, with their first album or whatever, it was like, Helter Skelter was like, playing. So, hey, everything comes from everything else. So,
well, it does. And to see those guys kind of pay tribute that way too, and musicians are kind of special that way because there's somewhere there's a saying that says there's no such thing as two songs. There's just one big song that everybody kind of contributes something to. And that's true. I mean, even when we talk about somebody who takes it the next step, like Eddie Van Halen, every single musician is playing the song that somebody played before.
Yeah,
just
pretty much.
changing it a little bit. And so unlike some other things that really have different novel, sort of beginnings,
right?
Music doesn't. It just doesn't. It all goes back to kind of the first music and just continues. So, and to see most musicians really can answer that question really quickly. Like, hey, who influenced you?
Yeah.
Boom,
Oh yeah.
They know.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember an interview with Rob Zombie one time, and this was at kind of like the peak of his career, where like everyone's like really fascinated with these kind of questions, and they were like, what kind of music do you listen to? When you go home, what do you listen to? And he goes, oh man, and he's like, if I told you probably wouldn't like it anyway. So it's like at that point in time, you could tell like, he's probably kind of like guarded as far as like, not wanting to tell people he's like, at home listening to like, disco or funk or something like that.
Right.
But he clearly was, because if you hear some of his covers, he's doing like Casey and the Sunshine Band and Kool and the Gang and all these like different these covers of these songs, and you're like, okay, but he's making them rocky-ish, but
right.
So I always kind of like laughed at that.
And lately, I don't know, music is so rad because you can just go back, especially with the internet, and explore different things. I've been re-listening to Faith No More a lot, which didn't get much play. I mean, they got play, but whatever. They were never really popular. But
they got played a little bit with a few songs. Yes.
Right. But man, their lead singer, Mike Patton, he's one of those dudes. He's a complete genius, but the music he plays is almost nothing like the music he listens to.
Right.
He listens to like old sort of, he listened to the gold record that they sent into space in like 1975 or whatever. Like he'll sit down and listen to that, and that influences his rock. And it's just
crazy
weird shit what people pull from.
Now, was he always the lead singer for them, or am I thinking of?
No, there was another dude before him.
Is he the no? Did he? Because I always like that one song that came out like really early. We Care a Lot.
That was a different singer.
Was it? I still like that song, but no, he did the Easy and Epic and all that shit, right? Yeah,
and I think some of the stuff off.
They're way like. They're one of those bands that too, like where you talk about Clutch, where you like you hear like a Clutch song, you're like, "Woo, dude, that's like crazy," and then you hear the next song, you're like, "Who's this band?" You're like, "Dude, that's Clutch," and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah,
it's like it doesn't even sound like the same band. All right, okay.
Oh yeah, no, Faith No More. You could definitely listen to one song and be like, "Is this Incubus?"
Yeah,
no,
right.
This is Faith No More. And the next one, you're like, "Is this Alice in Chains?" You're like, "No."
And they're kind of like the pioneers of almost like the pioneers of that genre. Right, like that kind of like rap rockish kind of like
rap rock, and then they also
like
threw some
especially
weird
with
little
Epic
synth in there. Yeah, I think you probably have to give the Beastie Boys credit for that, for making that mainstream though.
Yeah, that's true.
86 compared to whatever it was, The Real Thing, didn't that come out in like 90 something?
Yeah, so that's pretty good. The Beastie Boys talking about their you got to fight for your right to party, right?
Yeah.
But no sleep till Brooklyn.
That's what's interesting also about music though. Like I sent a text to my buddy Sean in New Jersey the other day. I was at the gym, and a song off Paul's Boutique came on.
Yeah.
And I immediately had to send him a thank you. I sent him a thank you text because he was the first one to play anything from Paul's Boutique or Check Your Head for me. And all I knew about the Beastie Boys before that was like
License to Ill. Right.
And I remember like he played it and I was like, what is this? What is this? And he goes, this is the Beastie Boys. And I was like, no, it isn't. This isn't the Beastie Boys. But I remember just being astonished listening to Paul's Boutique.
Did you see the documentary they were doing on that?
No,
came out
everybody
like last
tells
year
me
or
I need to
earlier
watch
this year?
that.
Dude, it was amazing. It was awesome. They are on stage like talking about basically the whole story, and then they're going to clips and stuff like that. It's awesome, dude. So
I gotta watch it. Yeah,
you definitely have to watch
I think he was even asking me. He was asking me if I've seen the documentary.
You'll like it a lot. Yeah. And they talk about all that early stuff too, where like, we kind of like did a tongue-in-cheek album about like, frat boys and stuff like that. And then we became the frat boys.
Right.
Just because they got so famous and popular and drunken.
They got to party and they had to live the lifestyle that backed up the music. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah. But with Van Halen, with Eddie, do you have like a favorite Eddie like song, or just Van Halen song or Van Halen album?
Yeah, I mean, anything off of Van Halen 1. I mean, the entire album.
The first album is like one of the greatest debut albums of all time. It's up really there with Appetite for Destruction. I mean,
but there's different music for like different things. Eruption is obviously just an insane, 2-minute or whatever guitar tour of force. Like if you just, And like I could listen to that every day and not be bored of it because it's so ridiculous.
I love how he said he like messed up on that song, and Ted Templeton was like so blown away, and he goes, no, that's the take right there, and he goes, can I redo it? And he's like, no, we're not redoing that. He goes, I messed up. And he goes, it doesn't matter. That's gonna be. And he's like, great, now I have to do that way every time, like when he does it in concert, but he didn't.
Right. But that's so that's another thing. I'll kind of backpedal here instead of me telling you about that, dude. You are the music guy, and it's awesome that you can pull that stuff and say, hey, here's a story from the producer of that album, Ted Templeton. How on earth do you know that? And I mean, like in terms, clearly music is a huge thing for you, but as far as influences go,
I love Ted Templeton, dude. That guy. It's funny that we were talking about this because like I always go to the producers because producers take good bands and make them great, and sometimes make them legendary, and nobody knows who the producers are. Right. And I'm like, I started like years ago, I started reading a lot about music, and then I would find out that some of these producers did these same bands. Like, you have these crazy guys like Mutt Lange, who did like AC/DC and Def Leppard. I mean, all of these guys, right? All the Shania Twain stuff. He's very, all over the board.
Didn't he marry her? Isn't he married to her?
Yeah. And then you have like Ted Templeton, who did essentially all of Van Halen's early stuff. And then he did the Doobie Brothers.
Is he the one that says,
he did the Doobie Brothers.
Give me a break.
Yeah. Yes. One break coming up. Yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've always been really fascinated with all the behind the scenes stuff. I could never be I could probably be a producer in some sense of like the old school producers that just, tell people what to do. But I could never be like an engineer or something like that, where it's like overly technical, like, and a lot of those guys are like straight up musicians, which, by the way, a lot of producers are too. So
that's what I was just going to say is I think a lot of these producers are just really good musicians, and they can hear the song in their head, but they're not a technician on the or they're just on the
some of them
piece of.
And some of them are, some of them are way over the top. Like Jeff Lynne, like he would take a piece of a song and like literally construct a whole thing. And like people would go home for the night, and they'd come back in the morning. They're like, "Well, it's too bad that one song didn't work." And he goes, "No, I reconstructed the whole thing." And it's like,
I kind of fixed it.
I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I spent all night like doing the drums, the guitars. And it's like, dude, whoa, like what? Yeah, like there's like crazy stories like that, and I'm always fascinated with that. But
so how does that? Okay, so producers, and you're into that. I want to ask, how did you get into that? Is that something that comes from your dad? Because I know your dad was super into music, but didn't he do some like DJing and some other stuff like that? Yeah,
he was. He DJ'd some stuff, and he like went to like engineering school.
Oh wow.
Okay, so he used to always like have like equipment around the house, nothing like crazy fancy, but you remember like he had like the boards and stuff like that.
Totally and even the reel to reel and like all that.
He's I mean, if you hear like my grandpa was like he's like the opposite. He's like no interest in music at all, one bit. My dad is like, my grandpa's right. Music consumes my dad's brain, and it always has to be on everywhere. I mean, I told those stories when I'd be walking home from school, and my friends would be like, "What's going on at your house, dude? Is there some party or something like that?" And I go, "No, it's my dad. He's just playing music all the time." And I'd walk in, and he'd be playing any type of music, which is cool because like I got exposed to like pretty much everything, right? So then I just started. I think it was like 8th grade. I got one of those books. It was kind of like one of those Rolling Stone album guide books.
Right.
And I just started reading just like almost like cover to cover. I started like looking up bands that I liked and seeing all the reviews and stuff like that. But then like I would catch those names of like the different like producers or people that have worked on it or engineers or something like that. And I'm like, dude, I can't get enough of this. I'm so fascinated with how stuff works. And after I graduated college, I went in to see I can't remember what band it was. And they were recording in this studio. And I walked in there, and I'm like, all I could do is just like stare at the guy that was like kind of like running the show. There's like a guy like playing guitar in the corner, and I was like, I'm kind of fascinated with that guy, but I'm really fascinated with the guy that over there that's like kind of like telling him everything he wants to do like over and over. Like there's that one story about that Bob Rock of Metallica and Motley Crue and stuff like that, and Bob Rock famously, Metallica heard the Motley Crue album Dr. Feelgood, and they're like, that sound was so crazy amazing. We need to get that guy for our next album, which became the Black Album.
Right.
And I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. Like, because they weren't really the same type of music. they're kind of like hair bandy, but they did have some, great rock songs, right?
Well, and I think those guys have to be able to kind of recognize. I mean, you would hope
exactly
that they'd be able to recognize. Holy crap!
Yeah,
that dude has.
Dude,
something.
you hear the beginning of Dr. Feelgood, and it is just a bomb. It's like, it's crazy. You're like, how can you not hear that and go, dude? I don't know who the hell produced that, but wow. I mean, that is a big sound, and if we can get that kind of sound, and I don't know if they were looking to go as commercial as like he made them, but he certainly made them all many times million more than they were ever worth.
Right.
So
okay, so like I'm gonna keep drilling down on you because like we talk about music and we can talk about me, except you're the music guy, dude. So like when you were reading all that stuff and you were learning all of this stuff, it took you into kind of towards music. Like, I don't know if, because you ended up studying music in college, right? Or production and communications and music.
Yeah.
You were a DJ at the college radio station. That hanging out with your dad and listening to that music and turning that into an interest turned into basically you following that path, and you're still doing it. You're in front of a microphone right now. But like, so what was it like when you got to college then and you actually got to kind of sit behind a board? You weren't a producer producing music, but you're doing
it's funny because
stuff.
when I first went over to Central, I was like, man, how do I get in that radio station? I want to get in there. And I was like, it wasn't that I wasn't intimidated by the job, like, doing the work. Cause I used to go to the radio station with my dad all the time. And I like watching him do shows and picking up music and like watching him like do all the reel to reels and recording and stuff like that. I wasn't afraid of the studio. I was kind of like shy as like, I don't know these people. And then when I met Kevin's like, yeah, I'm on the radio, blah, blah. I'm one of the managers. And I go, really? And he goes, yeah, why don't you sit in with me? He literally just kind of took control and he goes, come sit with me. And I go, yeah, done.
Right.
I'm in. So I went to sit with him, and it was kind of like one of those things where kind of like eventually Kevin first was the one running the board and stuff like that, and then he would go take a smoke break, and I literally just scoot over and just start taking over the show as far as picking up music and filling out the logs and doing all the. But yeah, so I quickly got my own show, did that, and when I moved out to do an internship at the radio station.
And where'd you start first? Was it KBSG?
No, that's where I ended.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah,
what was your first because you worked at a bunch of radio stations.
Yeah. So I first start. Well, I guess if you technically want to say with Ryan Trotter, he took me over to the local Christian radio station in town at in Ellensburg. It was like up these stairs like downtown, and I'm like, what are we going? And so we did like a commercial spot there. So I don't know if you want to count that, but we did a commercial there. And then after that, I did an internship at KISW, the big rock station in Seattle. Yeah. And then
hold on, I got to call time out here and back up to Ryan Trotter. I figured that guy was going to end up on ESPN.
Have you heard? Do you know anything about Ryan Trotter right now?
I don't know anything about Ryan Trotter. Trotter, he and I we were roommates when I came to Central for 3 months or whatever.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Because he had the apartment, and I just stayed with him until the next. He was done the next year, and that's when
he's literally one of the handful of people that I know to this day who is still on the radio.
Whoa.
He is still on the radio in Centralia, Washington.
You know what? Dude, he invited me down there to call a baseball game with him one time.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I mean, God, I forgot about that until just now, but he called me up and said, hey, do you want to just be the color man on a high school baseball game?
That's wild, man. Yeah, I texted him a while back. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And he goes, are you still doing the radio thing? And he's like, yes, I am. And I'm like, it's been over 20 years since he's been doing that. Like, that's amazing.
I'm glad to hear that because he was definitely one of those guys that you could just see it in his eyes. He just was going to keep going forward.
And he's legit. Like, as far as like
I'm sure 20 years in.
He used to call the games for sports. For the college and everything.
Right, I remember him calling the basketball games, which is not an easy sport to call.
No, yeah, he's good, man. Yeah, so I haven't talked to him like we're talking now, but I sent him some
it sounds like you got another guest lined up here.
I think I do. Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, so that should be funny. He's one of those guys where I didn't have a lot in common with him as far as spiritually.
Or socially. Yeah, me either. But I lived with him, and I think he really did. He liked me as a person. I don't think he and I got along living with each other.
But as far as, we had a mutual love for comedy, like Seinfeld. We were like huge Seinfeld. We watched the last episode of Seinfeld in my little dorm room. I don't know when it was. Like, you know, I have no, I can't even remember. It was like 98 or something.
Right.
But I remember that day, like he came over and we were like watching it in my little dorm room on my little TV. It was awesome. I was like, "Whoa, this is," we were like kind of confused.
Trotter was awesome. Like he's one of those dudes that, you know, you can say this about a few people out there, him and like Brian Crooks and some other people. They're just, there isn't a bad bone in their body. Like they're just always going to be good people. Yeah.
We used to always make fun of like the way he talks, and he's like, chili mac. You want some chili mac? Yeah. So he always had like the radio. He's kind of like, you know, those old school radio guys that they, in their personal lives, they talk like radio guys.
Totally. Yes.
Would you like some chili back? You're like, what?
Yeah.
What the? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, if you end up getting Trotter as a guest, I can't wait to hear that one. I want to hear what he sounds like and what he's up to.
Yeah, right. Definitely. Me too. I'm excited to talk to him. And he already said, I go, hey man, would you like to come on the show one time? He goes, yeah, let's do it. So he's in, man. I already booked him. Just got to set a date. Yeah. So
awesome. Well, yeah, I'll be looking forward to that one. So, okay. Sorry, that was my divergence.
No, that's cool, man.
But so, I mean, I'm always fascinated when people end up finding a passion. And like you said, you know, when you walked into the studio, you went, I got to figure out how to get into that radio station. I got to figure out how to do that. I did the same thing with baseball. I was like, you know, it was time to find a job. I was like, fuck, I got to find a way into baseball. I got to find a way.
Yeah.
And I loved it so much. It never occurred to me that I wouldn't find a way to get into it.
Right.
And you basically did that as well. I mean, like you basically ended up working at all the radio stations and
I mean, I wouldn't say
and all those guys.
I wouldn't say I literally accomplished my dream, but, you know, as far as back then, I don't know that's the thing though. Cause like when my dad would always he'd be like, hey man, are you gonna be on the air or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know if I want to be like, where am I going to go from being on the air? I mean, and I loved like DJs. I loved working with those guys, but I didn't necessarily always want to be the guy on the radio just introducing a song and whatever, you know?
Right.
Which is cool. I think it's like one of the coolest things ever. But again, that time that I graduated, shit started changing real fast. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you hit, I mean, there are a few times in life where you just hit the exact wrong moment.
Yeah.
Like I remember that when,
I mean, just with my major alone, everything that I learned in my video studies was like
it was
analog.
all analog.
Yes.
Right.
And then they're like, every single place that I looked, they're like, you need a digital editing experience. And I go, oh, okay.
Right. They hand you your diploma and they say, this
luck,
is the
buddy.
last diploma we're ever going to hand out that says the word analog on it. Congrats.
Yeah, totally.
The minor in Latin.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit. I go, this is not good. And then I did that internship with that Jack Hoffman guy.
Yeah.
And he was like, he's a jerk. And then on Fridays, I go to the radio station, and it's like, dude, this is like completely the yin and yang. Like one of them I dread going into each week. And then on Fridays, it was like, you know, first off, is anybody angry on a Friday? That's usually when they let people go, when they fire people is on a Friday.
Right.
So people are in party mode as it is. I go in there, and literally one of the first things they had me do as an intern was take beer orders for the DJs. Right. So I'm sitting here taking a beer order, and I'm like, okay. And they're like, and then so go take the van, go get that washed, and then you know, go get everyone's beer order. And I'm going up this 16 flights of elevator, and with this like, you know, hand truck.
Right.
And people are like, where's he going? I'm like, see you guys later. And it's like, boom. You know, like, and I'm like going out, you know, the door and, you know, handing out beers to everybody. And I'm like, dude, I like this. And this isn't even, and this is the tail end of like, you know, in parentheses, radio. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this isn't even the heyday of it. If you heard like Zeke talk about radio, that was like, he was in radio, you know, like
real radio days, right?
You know, you're opening up packages with payola of like, you know, cocaine and shit. You're like, whoa, what's going on here? Well, this is nuts, right? So yeah, no, I got a taste of that. And then,
wait, a taste of the Coke?
Not the Coke, no.
You missed that by a
Well, I was
few
in the
years.
wrong area. Yeah. So, no, but I did the internship, and then they started, you know, it was like one of those things where well, like, okay, well, we need a promo for this station and this station. So I just started working at all these other stations through the same company. And the promotions, like a lot of the DJs were like, dude, you guys get we don't get shit. You guys get everything. So they started asking us for stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute, like the promotions guy, we have all the power as far as like, you know, giving stuff away. And like, we have all the access to like tickets and stuff like that. I would like literally, I'd feel bad. I'd be like, dude, here, you guys want some tickets? Like we just have piles of these. Like,
dude,
and
that's
I don't know
kind
why
of how it is though at many places is, what's that?
So it's messed up.
Yeah,
like,
well, but that's how it is in a lot of places. I mean, like at the bottom of the chain at the Mariners, like we got all kinds of stuff that nobody who was working like at the front office got, just because at that level, you're just sort of floating around and everybody knows you don't make any money and you're kind of there for the fun as much as the money. And you kind of get mixed into some of that. Whereas if you are just there punching the clock, doing your 9 to 5,
right,
you're not really exposed to that if you're up at a desk. But if you're down, you know, driving the artists around and doing all that stuff, you kind of get a little bit different experience.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it was that working that job was so fun. I mean, you were with me during that era. Like we were hanging out like all the time. I don't even know how I functioned doing all the stuff that I was doing. Probably, you know, didn't help that I was like, you know, 23, 24 years old.
It's youth.
Yeah. So like, I'm like, people go like, what's the most jobs you've had at one time? And I'm like, 5. They're like, 5 jobs? And I go, I'm dead serious too. I had 5 jobs at one time, you know, and those jobs too, they weren't anything I dreaded. I love doing all of those. They were fun. I mean,
right.
They're like, we need to do a meet and greet. I'm like, wait, you want me to meet and greet with Megadeth? Like,
right.
Okay, wait, I have to be the adult though. That kind of sucks. So,
right. That,
yeah.
You can't just go and fully party.
I don't have all those cool pictures that your buddy Brian Stites has.
Oh man, like, you know, who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody just recently about that. Sort of like, I don't regret that I was the adult and sort of, you know, did my best to just, you know, not rock the boat or whatever, and never getting any pictures, and you know. Yeah, but now you don't have. I think probably most of the players and most of the people would respect me if they saw me.
Yeah, but they don't even like some of those guys don't even know who you are now, right?
None of them would. I mean, like almost none of them would. And okay, so and I think I have to tell myself the reward was a long career with the Mariners. Like I'm still welcome back there.
Yeah, like right. Yeah, the management respects you.
Yeah, and I mean I have a job there right now if I want to. So there's that, right?
Right.
But there's also, dude, I worked there during a period that was just without question, not even an argument, it was the best era in Mariners baseball history.
Oh yeah, it's one of the best years in sports history for Seattle. Right.
And so, you know, and I purposely stayed out of the sort of limelight. Like Stites has some awesome pictures. You know, he's got pictures in the clubhouse in '95, getting like Randy Johnson's pouring a beer on his head. He's got a cigar. He's got whatever, like hugging Griffey. Like he's got all these things.
So awesome.
And we were in the same places.
Yeah, you're right next to him.
I just didn't want to get my picture taken. So
yeah, dude, that was so funny, man. Like you,
and I guess I did it right. But like thinking about some of the stuff that you did with your stuff, I mean, certainly at least one of those things. Was it the end of your radio career?
Well, yeah. When I was talking with BJ, we were talking about that, right? Like, is that what you're talking about? Like the concert?
At the Gorge.
Yeah,
at the Gorge.
No, you know what's funny is like when I was telling that story, I was trying to explain to him that the security were like some of my closest friends, and you weren't you one of the security guys?
Yeah, me and Ethan and Rob, and those guys. All the football guys are asked to go out there and do security.
You guys kept waving me over there, and I'm like, oh yeah, hold on, and I'll come over there, and like that's what the lady could have written a lot of worse stuff that we were doing over there. Like it wasn't like anything way over the top crazy, but we were having drinks and stuff like that, but it wasn't like we were disobeying you guys, because I kept going over there because I kept wanting to talk to you guys, and you guys.
No, and that's the big misconception that she definitely had that I think probably turned into, the misinformation that ended up getting you fired. But yeah, I mean, it was me, Ethan, Rob, and a bunch of the football players. And I don't know if you remember this, but we used to confiscate all the booze, and then we couldn't bring it all home. There was so much of it. And so we were bringing, I don't know if you guys remember, we were bringing you guys all the little airline bottles.
Yeah, no, dude, it was awesome. Like you guys were hilarious too, because I kept going over there, and you're like, dude, wish I was you guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really did suck. I mean, especially because I was trying to be the grown up there, and like the only fun part, and we all waited for it, was gate crashers, because there'd be somebody who you kind of see them milling, and then they'd run in and
yeah. And did you get to tackle them or anything, or what?
Oh yeah, hell yeah, yes, absolutely. No, we had like God, what's his name? Webster. Ethan would remember his name.
Skeet
I think Webster. I forget his name, but we had a couple dudes, but like, we used to call him the safety. Like we'd put a safety kind of, 20 yards down the path.
Oh, that is
behind
hilarious.
the entrance. And like, if they got that far, that dude was it. And he would just put them in the weeds.
Isn't there a famous story of one of the Darwin Awards, like falling from one of those walls there and dying?
Oh man. I don't know.
I swear to God.
People did that all the time though. Yeah, I mean,
because if you're jumping over one of those walls too, like there's some of those walls that are really high, and and you don't know sometimes how far down it is.
Right.
So if it's at night and you're like, you just jump over it and you're like all drunk or something like that, dude, there could be some damage there.
Right. Right. I never understood that. I know concerts are kind of expensive, but
they're not that,
like
you're already at the Gorge. You're
already there. Right. You're already there.
It takes an hour and a half to get there.
Right. I never understood the gate crashing thing. It's like,
it's so stupid.
Like you're already, like, your plan is to come all this way, to park, to camp, to do all that stuff, and then just see if it works out for you to get in the gate.
And by the way, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this too. Those tailgates at the Gorge. You remember going over there to those tailgates before concerts?
Oh yeah.
Why is it the tailgates are always the most fun of any event, in my opinion? Like, you go to like a football game, you're like, dude, I don't want this tailgate to end. Oh shit, the game is going to be starting here? This sucks. We got to go walk into the game now.
Well, and here's why. It's the lone thing, if you're tailgating for an event, it's the lone thing where everything you're doing is in preparation for something that's going to be more fun.
Right.
Everything you're just, so like, and I don't know, tailgating for a concert, tailgating for a game, tailgating for, any of that stuff. You get to party your way into something fun.
Right.
The anticipation is still there. The game, the team hasn't lost yet or whatever. Like, it is the most fun because it's completely.
But I've gone to a lot of games. I've gone to a lot of concerts that the concert sucked or the game was terrible. You lose, and it's like, oh, okay, well, wish I could go back to the tailgate.
And I think I can say that more about the Gorge. All the shows
so
I've been at the Gorge.
No,
the camping at the Gorge is the reason to go.
Well,
I've been to some really garbage shows. I don't know. I've seen Dave Matthews a few times just because I'd go with people who like Dave Matthews.
Was I talking to this? I was talking to somebody just recently about that I saw Dave Matthews at the Gorge, and I was like, man, like, I don't know. Oh, I think it was Heidi. I was talking to Heidi, and I was like, you know what? I don't know. Yeah. Like, I'm a casual fan. I like the hits.
Well, it's an event.
The 20-minute jams are all right.
Well, and especially because I don't smoke weed, so like,
right.
It's not really my jam. Like, I'm not into really long jam sessions and whatever, and everybody's partying but sort of super mellow at the same time.
It's a good point with the weed. It's a good point with the weed.
I think it's the lifestyle. Like, the Dave Matthews Band is a lifestyle. It's not not music. It's a lifestyle. It's like the Grateful Dead.
Well,
Grateful Dead didn't have any good music. They just had a lifestyle.
Well, and all of these are great musicians. I mean, I don't think that's one of those things.
You don't get to that level unless you're a great musician. But then, you can have some music that's pretty boring, in my opinion.
Chugging.
Yeah, man. But it's clear, like, when you look at those bands, that's what they are, right?
Yeah, it's just kind of like you're bobbing your head. Yeah, you're kind of
And you don't, I mean,
Fish.
music
Fish?
and concerts are different things too.
Can you name a song by Fish? Do you know one song by Fish?
No. Does anybody know a song by Fish? I mean, think about the people that go to Fish. They don't know.
They're on like acid and like high on weed and shit. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. I like that. You're like, no, I don't know a song by Fish.
Yeah, I don't. You said Truckin', and that I think I know that's a Grateful Dead song.
Yeah,
you couldn't. That's it. That's the only song I know, and only because you said it. But the Grateful Dead were a massive, massive, successful band.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
And they don't have any good music.
They still tour somehow with, like, John Mayer or something like that.
Whatever. I mean, but that shows you... It isn't the music, it's the experience.
Yeah,
and like, you brought this up on one of the pods recently, and I brought this up. I said this today. I was talking about this to my trainer. The most fun I've ever had at a concert, I already know that you know what concert it is. The most fun concert
yes, ever was the Offspring concert.
100%.
That
no
was
question
that was
about it.
so insanely awesome.
And-
I couldn't
and-
believe all the stuff that was going on at that concert.
Right,
It was
right.
awesome.
And
it-
yet,
well,
musically,
yeah. Oh no.
One of the
Musically, yeah. No. Yeah. It would, like the guy's screwing up on guitar and shit. But
yeah, he couldn't play his chords.
didn't care. Nobody cared. Nobody
Dexter
cared.
didn't even sing half the songs. He was screwing around with the
Yeah.
audience so much.
Yeah.
Like musically, if you had shown up there for the music, you would just hate it. It would be awful.
Right.
But we
yeah.
went there, and it was I'm
Dude.
sitting here grinning, thinking
Dude,
about
it
how
was so
ridiculous
fun,
that
man.
show was.
It was so fun. Like I remember, like they did that one song. What was that? Drivers are rude, such attitude, and he stops.
And then he
like,
stops.
dude, and
Stops everybody. Goes, you guys ready?
dude, it was so awesome.
Man.
Dude, that just gave me chills, man. It was so
Me too.
like
That was so
every
rad.
single
Just
person
in the middle of the pit, just everybody's
And again-
going nuts, and then he does that little breakdown, and he stops, and he's like, "You guys ready?"
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this to Heidi, but there's no way that you could ever capture that moment in time again. That was a moment in that perfect area of time because that is the peak of their career. Like everyone knew all those songs. They were the top of the charts. They were killing it. And everyone there was ready to have fun. It didn't even matter. They were there to party with everyone else. And it was,
and they
it was
were a
so
party
fun.
band anyway. I mean, it was definitely, they were not just
they do.
I mean, there are some great shows by other bands, but they aren't parties.
All their songs,
those guys on that tour,
yeah,
it was just a bombshell.
All their songs consist of almost like novelty songs.
Yeah.
And then punk rock songs.
Punk
so
covers,
it's like,
right.
Yeah, so it's, dude, I still love the Offspring. Probably not as much as I did, back then, but I mean, there's a lot of bands like that, it's like, hey,
I love Tool. I can't really listen to Tool. Like I listen to a couple songs when I work out, but like
it was that era too, though. Remember,
that.
like you used to go in and sing karaoke, and you used to scream so hard and loud. I'm like, I don't know how you do that. You're like, and I think I said this to you a while back, few years ago, or maybe maybe it was this year. You're like, I can't do that shit anymore. I can't even do it.
No.
I can't even come close to that.
I was never a good singer, but I could always hit the note I was kind of aiming for. I can't anymore. I can't do any of that. I torched my voice, and I knew I was doing it at the time. Like I definitely knew at the time.
You had some awesome, dude. I'm glad that I whipped out my video camera at some of these moments because I captured some of these on film of you.
Yeah,
singing
man. So that's
that.
another thing. We got to delve into this. I know I've said this before, but without you documenting everything, I would have no pictures of myself from like.
You used to say that back in the day too.
Yeah, 1997 to 2000.
It was even but there's even pictures before that. Remember, I used to take that little clunker phone around with me too, like that. I don't even know what it was. It was just some crappy phone. Remember back in the day, like phones didn't cost, or I'm sorry, not even phones. Cameras didn't cost anything.
I remember the
really.
black camera he had.
Yeah.
Okay, so what made you the documenter? Like what? Because it never even occurs to me to like take that stuff. It shows that you care about like the people around you because you're taking pictures and you're documenting that.
Yeah, no. Okay, so that's a cool question because when I used to watch old videos of my relatives, I'm like, I'd always be fascinated, be like, dude, where's you guys should have more of this. Like, and I always thought to myself, I want to document my friends, and most of my video is not me.
I know. Yeah, that's why I brought
there's hardly
it up.
any video of me. I'm always documenting my friends because it's almost like I knew I wanted to capture all of these moments in time. The funniest people to me, of course I love like Sam Kinison and Howard Stern and all these guys, but I always like tried to surround myself with funny people, or I'm always really entertained by funny people. That's why, especially with you, when I figured out that you were just always self-deprecating and the way your humor is, I always wanted to have documentation of that. So when I finally had enough money to buy a video camera, I mean, dude, where did I took that thing everywhere. I used to get kicked out of bars.
I remember. Yeah. Oh, I remember.
And I'd be like, they're like, hey, you can't have that in here. Either you need to check it, or I'm like, well, see ya. I'm like, I'll go to the next bar. Like half the bars will let me in. They didn't care. Cause like who had video cameras like back in,
That's what
late
was so
90s.
crazy is we had kind of this. It was like you were filming a rock documentary, like the Motley Crue documentary or whatever.
Right.
Except it was just us. It was just our dumb group of
Dude,
friends.
I have so much video.
Always filming, and I kind of regret. Like I wish I would have taken the camera from you and just filmed you and other people doing stuff.
Well, I'm
too.
just basically, if you have me on camera, I'm just laughing my ass off at you guys. So it's like, there's some video of me, but it's usually like from Kevin or like Chuck, like they're filming. But
Right.
yeah, mostly it's me because I'm the one that always is wanting to be documenting everything. So, but yeah, no,
well, that's good, bad. I'm sure there are some really awesome moments that you captured, but if your house burned down and took all the video with it, that's a 50-50 proposition for me if I ever run for office.
Well, do you really think that would affect things now with running for office?
Yeah, good point. It probably wouldn't. But also, who in their right mind, who other than a sociopath would run for an office right now?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I won't get into politics. But I'm just saying, if I did, you're right. Maybe I have a free pass. Maybe your videos
you're right though. You're right though. There's a lot of stuff on there that we're just, there's a lot of stuff that's stupid and not, it's not funny. We're just doing drunken whatever. But
that's the thing. That's the thing I was thinking about the other day too. Is God, we survived a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of stuff that, like, I mean, sure, there are the near death, like, the semi that almost hit us on the side of the road.
Oh my God.
But there are a bunch of things that don't even rate that we're pretty lucky we got out of. Lots of stupid shenanigans that should have at least ended in a fight, a good bar fight, or getting arrested.
Again, that's another reason I love my friends so much, because I did so much stupid shit. Like I mean, if we ever got in fights, it was probably a lot because of me just being stupid. I was probably always the biggest verbal smartass of all of us. Like you were definitely you're the biggest smartass like within our group, and like when people would talk to you, but like vocally I would project, the biggest I don't even know how you describe it.
Well, I think you were kind of a smart ass, but not in you were never in really a negative way. It was just you were out having fun.
Right.
You also had this thing going against you, and that is when you went into bars, all the guys who had girls with them, the girls would look at you and they'd automatically be pissed at you. And I mean, I know you laugh at that. It's true though. Like it's true. Like we had to always kind of watch out for you, because it's like, oh shit. Like, and a girl would stand up and you'd go talk to her, not even knowing she was sitting next to a dude before that. And we'd watch the dude and go, oh shit, here we go. Like, I don't know if you remember the one at the Spunky Monkey where you walked outside, dude. and I had to come out and get between, like, that was,
it wasn't even packed. It was like,
no,
it was like a kind of a slow night. And
there was basically, it was a group of guys and you were kind of joking around with them, and it was fun. Like,
yeah.
It was kind of good natured, but I definitely caught at least one dude in there really didn't like it, but he was playing along or whatever. And I just remember thinking, and you're like, hey, I got to get something out of my car, or something happened. And I was like, oh fuck. And you walked out, and those three dudes walked out behind you.
Well,
and
I came back in, right? And then,
so you may not have even caught it then, because you walked out to the car and I walked out and I doubled around the thing. So I was standing in between their car when they came to walk through, and I was like, hey guys. And they're like, hey. I was like, just coming out for a smoke? And they're like, uh-huh.
Jesus, man.
And so I don't remember if you saw them or not.
Right.
And truth be told, I mean, I know that they were coming out there to fight or to do something, but nothing ever happened. It was just nice words or whatever.
And just to paint a picture here, you were a pretty big dude, like intimidating too. You had like that bald head and goatee.
Yeah, it didn't hurt.
Yeah,
it didn't hurt.
You literally looked like a bouncer, a cop.
I was. I mean, yeah, I looked like the job I did.
Right. So exactly. So I just want to put that out there. But I came back in and didn't you bought him a beer or something, right?
Yeah. I mean, I did that a few times. Remember?
And you go, dude. No,
it's just a respect thing.
Yeah, you're like,
you just say, hey, I'm gonna choose to buy you a beer instead of punch your teeth out. I mean, like, it really.
And
is
then
that,
you told me.
like,
Eventually, you told me, and I'm like, oh shit. And it's like almost one of those things where you kind of like, sometimes you would tell me way afterwards, like after we got home or something like that. You're like, dude, yeah, I didn't really want to get into this there, but you'd always like tell me afterwards, because like if you told me then, I was like, I'm kind of like more transparent. You're able to keep like a good poker face. I'm not. I'm kind of like, whoa, what did I do? Like what? And then I always would.
Yeah, you were pretty oblivious to a lot of it.
Yeah, I was like, I want to apologize to the guy. You're like, don't talk to that guy.
Don't go apologize. Yeah. Don't do that.
I'm like, did I do something wrong? Like, what did I do, man? Like, I don't know.
No, just some people are like that. I mean, like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, well, especially if you add in alcohol and whatever else they're on. Yeah.
And I mean, you never know. Like, think about the average person, and then you think about how dumb the average person is, and then you pick the group that goes to the bars all the time, and that's a little bit lower, and then you pick the guys who are out there specifically to fight. Like, there's just people who, it doesn't matter what you do or what you say, they want to fight you.
Right. Oh, man. Do you remember the time that we were at, I think it was the Temple? It might have been the Temple with Stites.
Oh, yeah, it was Stites.
Dude,
yeah,
that was nuts. Because I didn't
It was nuts for you guys. It was bad for me because I was holding 2 pitchers of beer, and it kicked off while I was at the bar. And
I didn't even know what was going on. It was one of those
Rolls
times where
ran past me, and I was like, what the? And I turn around just in time to see Stites grab the guy by the throat and sit him on the pool table.
I'm like, wait, I literally had no idea what happened, but I guess the guy was, I don't know if he's coming towards me. I think he was.
Yeah, Stites just I caught the tail end of it. I spun around to see where Rolls was going, and I just see Stites throttle the dude on the throat and just sit him on the table.
Dude, that was crazy. I was like, dude, thank you. What the hell just happened? What?
Yeah, I never even had to set the beer down. I just walked over with the 2 pitchers and set him down, and it was already over.
Because nobody's gonna come, like nobody's gonna want to start a fight with that guy. They probably didn't even know that he was like with us, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like he makes you look like a small guy. He's a huge dude.
And he same thing, shaved head, bald.
Yep.
Goatee.
He's like really nice eyes though. Really nice eyes. Yeah.
He does have really nice eyes. nice big brown cow eyes.
Yeah. And he's a big fan of Planet of the Apes. That's what I remember about him.
Yeah. Man, he's doing well. I still stay in touch with him. Yeah, he's still working for Metro.
Damn, yeah. That's a lifer job, dude. Those are good pension jobs, right?
It is. Yeah, I think he's doing well. He's just hanging out doing the Metro thing. Yeah,
good to hear.
And he's another one of those dudes. He's
nice
such
guy.
a good dude.
Yeah, I mean, now that we're talking about the old school stuff here,
do we have any new school stuff?
I mean, we have some, like us. I mean, it's not fun.
Exactly. So yeah, let's talk about the shit that isn't fun, or we can relive our youth.
I mean, let's relive our youth. You and Ryan came to visit. That was fun. That was the last time you were on. Do you know how many times? So it's been 5. This is your 5th appearance.
Well, no, I did one. Is it my 5th?
This is your 5th.
I did one phoner. I know
this
that.
This is your 5th appearance.
Wow.
5. Did you do a phoner?
I feel bad for the. I feel bad for the
audience.
Fans. Yeah.
No, yeah. So this is your 5th. Well, because you had 4 episodes, I believe.
I'm almost Andy Richter. I might be Guillermo. I'm almost Andy Richter. I'm telling you. That's a pretty good.
Yeah. This is you're kind of like, you know what you are? You're kind of like Steve Martin on Saturday Night Live, or what's his name? The Alec Baldwin.
I just guessed. I'm a frequent guest.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And hey, look, now that we have this audio set up, look out.
It's nice to use the booth too. I mean, we got the gear, and I finally got it figured out, and it's going to be cool, man. Yeah, I like it.
So I do want to talk a little bit about some of the places that we lived, and starting at your place in Ellensburg, you had those 3 roommates. I want to focus on the 3 roommates one, where you guys lived in that house that was kind of like in a really cool location too. It was like in the kind of like the housing area of. I mean, how do you describe that?
I don't know if I'd call it cool, but yeah, we had a house.
So you had these 3 roommates. And the stories that you had from this place are some of my favorite of all time. I don't know if you want to talk about any of this, but I hope you do.
I mean, I'll try not to trash anybody specifically, but also I'm not going to bite my tongue. Let's just talk about it. I don't care.
Okay, so anyway, you had these 3 roommates. I got along great with these guys. I love these guys. They're Ethan, of course. Love Ethan. Rob, what's Rob doing these days? Is he?
Oh, dude, he's a high school teacher and a coach down in Atlanta.
Guy was so funny, man. So funny.
He's still one of the funniest dudes.
God.
He's married, has a couple kids now.
Wow. Okay, yeah, that guy's awesome. I love that Rob guy.
I love Rob.
So funny, man.
Rob might be the funniest dude I've ever met.
He was so funny. God, everything he did.
Quietly funny.
Right.
You'd have to kind of sit next to him for a while, and then it would just start to squeeze out, and then pretty soon you'd just be, your stomach would be aching.
Well, he's that classic shy guy, but then when you get to know him, holy moly, like he's one of the funniest guys, legit one of the funniest guys that you'll ever meet.
Yeah, he really is. He might be the funniest dude I've ever met in person.
Yeah, he's hilarious, right? So anyway, you have these roommates, right? And some of these stories, I'd give you a call, or I'd come and visit you on the weekends, and you go, dude, hey, let's go for a drive. And I'm like, what's going on? You got to hear the shit that's going on at this place. And I go, what's going on, dude? And like, you take me on a drive, and you're like, So you had this this bottle of alcohol, and it was like this, special like.
Oh no!
So
the bottle of alcohol was given to me by a guy that got deported in basically, or he went away immediately after 9/11. But he lived in the same apartment complex as I did the year before.
Okay.
A guy named Mazen. He was from Jordan, and
Gotcha.
he and I were just kind of friendly or whatever. And he gave me a bottle of this Sambuca as kind of a cool thing. And he wrote me a nice little note in Arabic. And so I had that just kind of separate because I built the whole bar in the basement.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And that bottle never made it down there because I was like, hey, this is a gift. It's a cool gift from
you had that like in your room somewhere, right? Like
I had it up on the top of my. I didn't have a closet, so I had like one of those little, like a closet. It's whatever. And so I just set that thing on top of there, and I never really did anything with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I don't know how far I want to go back with kind of the background.
Well, you don't want to relive the anger of like, so your roommate kind of had, we're not going to say which, I don't even know if we can.
No, we have to, there's Ethan and Rob, and then there's the other dude, right? And the background is like, what sucks is I don't think he's a bad dude. I don't think he was. He and I got along fine when we lived together, although we were different personalities for sure.
Yeah. But
he was my dad's wife's son. And so we ended up as roommates. We hadn't known each other before that. We ended up as roommates. I don't know. I thought I was a pretty good roommate. I'm sure he thought he was a pretty good roommate, but we just weren't. But we were sort of stuck because that's what it was. Like we were both there, and my dad and his mom sort of expected us to stay in the same place.
Right.
And we never really had a big enough issue, at least initially, to change that. It was like, whatever. Yeah.
I'd go over and visit you guys. He's a nice guy, but he just did some bad things.
He's a nice guy who I think,
alcohol he played a definite factor in that shit. Certainly he had his
issues with substance, with alcohol, but also I think he was one of those dudes that's like not trustworthy nice. Like I think I can say that, and that's a fair assessment. Is I'm not trying to be mean. He's one of those dudes that's nice to your face, and then he'll have his dog shit on your bed, which is a real thing. Like, and he said that the dog did it on its own. The dog couldn't even get up on my bed. So like either the dog shit somewhere and he put the shit on my bed, or he put his dog up. Like, but neither would surprise me. He's that guy, like who's nice to your face. But
the fact that you say that, a lot of people are like, "Dude, come on, man." But that dog was very docile. It was kind of like it was almost.
That dog wanted to kill itself.
Right.
Rob, what kind of dog was that? It looked, we gotta close the bathroom because it's gonna drown itself. He'd walk into the bathroom, and then he'd come back and he'd go, "I had to kick the dog out of there. She had her head in the toilet."
Oh God! I'd go over there. I'm like, this dog looks really sad. Like
it was. Yeah. I would be too. Like that dog. Yeah. Yeah. It was a really sad. It was a sweet little boxer or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, so getting back to him, he and I had our differences by that point, but like I just chalked it up to who cares, whatever. He does his thing, I'll do mine, whatever. And it kept sort of escalating, and he definitely had an issue with alcohol. He definitely did. And I'm not making fun of that at all. I've commented in my life that I've drank enough alcohol to know if I would have been an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And I'm not. Like it just never sunk into me. And I think some people it really does. So I do have empathy for him for that. That sucks.
Especially that dangerous chemical in your body that there's some people that legit have never had a hangover. Like that guy, my friend Lisa Trout, she said she's never had a hangover, ever.
That's insane.
And who's that old TV announcer? I'm Pat O'Brien. I am Pat O'Brien.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He said that. He goes, that was one of the worst things.
Yeah, there's no punishment for drinking.
Yep, there's no repercussions for drinking as much as you possibly can and then just passing out. He said he'd black out and say stupid shit all the time, which was what ended his career. But alcoholism, and addictions. There's like those addictive personalities, right? So like, people that are just addicted to things, like they'll overdo something and like, and alcoholism.
Well, definitely and that was definitely him. And I, we recognized, we knew that's what was going on. So like, I never really tried to come down hard on him or anything, but all that said, that's not an excuse. He did a bunch of shitty things, and I definitely saved him from Ethan and Rob just burying him. They wanted to beat the shit out of him. They said a couple times. those guys would
football
definitely
players, like college football players, giant, like they were like defensive linemen, right?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, Ethan, not many people make Ethan look, not big.
Yeah,
because Ethan's probably 6'4".
He was 6'4".
He was probably 275 playing weight would be my guess.
He was huge.
And Rob is 6'4", 6'5", 300, 290. He was an All-American center.
Big boys.
And they flat out told me many times, the only reason we're not kicking his ass right now is out of respect for you and your family. So,
oh god.
But anyway, but back to that bottle of alcohol, that's a weird one because I recognize he had that issue, but I came home from like a weekend.
Well, wait, dude, that still doesn't give anybody a pass.
It's not a pass. I'm just saying, like, there were other shitty things he did that didn't involve the addiction.
Did you say that you started like?
I did. Well, no. So I marked that bottle.
Is this open?
Yeah. I was like, shit. Somebody drank some of this. I'm just gonna mark it. I marked it, and I came back the next, like, I don't know, a couple weeks later. I went away or whatever. Came back, and it had like just a dusting left.
Can you imagine like going into someone's room and like doing that?
I walked out with the thing in my hand, and I just look at him. I go, "What the fuck?" And he looks at me and goes, "What?" And I go, "I haven't even tried this." And he goes, "You should. It's good."
Wow.
And that was it. And I just like,
what did you do?
I did nothing.
God.
Like, I knew that was going to cause issues for my dad. I knew, and he was doing all kinds of other shit. He was, I mean, I won't get too deep into it, but he was, got a DUI, was in jail, got arrested at our house, gave the cops my name.
What was the story where he what was the scam that he did with the bars? He like,
oh yeah. Well, so he used to go get jobs at the bars as a cook.
Yeah.
And then he would just go to the freezer and he would take shit from them and he would take advances on his pay and then he would stop showing up. So that's separate. He would get those jobs. Yeah. And then also he would, as a consumer, he would take his credit card or his debit card and he would get a new one. Right.
Yeah.
And so he'd take the old one out, leave it at the bar for the tab and then drink and leave the card there. Wow. And we said, dude, you're going to have to pay this back. He's like, no, they can't. It's a dead card. They can't do anything. We're like,
because no one's ever thought of that one before.
And we used to get messages on the thing all the time. Is back when we had an actual message machine, and there'd be messages all the time like, "Hey, it's just so and so from Pounders. Got to get back here and pay your tab."
Jesus.
We'd be like, "Dude, you got to go," and he's like, "No." We're like, they know who you are and where you live. Like, they just called the house. You're gonna need to go handle this.
You said that the cops came. What did the cops come there for?
So that was a separate thing. I mean, there are a list of things, but so one day we were in the backyard shooting BBs. We were shooting saltine crackers with a BB gun, right?
Yeah.
And our neighbors, who had every right to hate us, really, we were loud. We were
not the drug dealer.
No, they didn't give a shit. But like the other neighbors around there, they, we were loud. We had a band that played that. Like, we were loud,
right?
And so, but that day it was just an afternoon. We're shooting saltines, and remember, if you remember, it had like a little shed in the back, like a backstop or whatever. Yep. So it was about as safe as you could get. And the cops showed up. And they're like, "Hey, we got a call that you guys were shooting birds with a 22. We're like, "Well, we're shooting saltines with a BB gun. So not really." And they're like, "Okay, well, they came in the yard, whatever. And they were talking and Josh actually was holding the rifle. And excuse me, they're like, "Okay, well, we need to take somebody's name." And I was like, "You can have mine, whatever." I bought the thing. And they're like, "We got to get his because he's holding it. We saw him shoot it when we pulled up." And he's like, "Well, I don't have my ID." And they're like, "Well, what's your name?" And he pauses for a second. He goes, "Oh, my name is Lee." And I look at him.
Holy shit, dude.
And Rob's standing out there too. Me and Rob are standing out there, and he goes, "My name is Lee." And he's like, "What's your last name?" And he goes, "Olson."
What? Shut up.
He spelled it out. And the guy's like, "Okay, what's your middle initial?" And he got the wrong middle initial.
Oh.
Right? But he left it at that. The cops leave, and I turn to him and I go, "You better get the fuck away from me right now. You're about to be put in the ground."
So, time out. So, you just let that go? Or
I did. Well, and so this actually turns a corner. We go in the house and I told him, "Dude, I'm not kidding. This is as close as you're going to get to having me pop your head off. Like, you better get away from me right now."
That's like a little crime. That's a crime, right?
Oh yeah. It's definitely a crime.
You can't do that.
And so he goes to his room, right? And Rob and I are sitting in the living room and I'm just fuming. I'm like, "Motherfucker, why would you do that?" few minutes later, we hear a knock at the door. I answer the door, and it's the cops. And they're like, yeah, so is Lee here? And I said, hey, guys, I owe you an apology. I'm Lee. He said that, and they're like, why did you let him say it? Why didn't you speak up? And I said, you know what? It happened so quick. I didn't even think about it. But I owe you guys an apology. I'll take whatever consequences coming my way. I didn't mean to get in your guys' way.
Wow.
And so they said, okay, we don't have a problem with you. What's his name? Why don't you go get him?
Oh, God, dude.
So I went and knocked on his door, and he's like, fuck you. And I'm like, yeah, you got to come out here. He's like, I'm not coming out. I'm like, yeah, you got to come out. And I opened his door, and he comes kind of wandering out, and he sees the cops standing there, and he's like,
oh, my God.
You know, there's those memes that are like, you know, you watch people die inside.
Right.
You could just see him, like, he comes out kind of half tough, like, what are you going to, and just sees the cops.
Yeah.
And he starts walking. And you remember that house was really long.
Yeah.
And he's walking, and his bedroom was all the way in the back. So he's walking the whole time, and the cops are just standing there at the front door. And I walk up, and me and Rob are sitting on the couch.
Oh, God. Did you have, like, popcorn and the...
we had a cooler full of beer, and no shit, this is Rob being perfect. He flips the top off the beer, or off the cooler, and goes, and hands me a beer, and the cops kind of look at us and laugh, and I crack, and we just sit down and we watch, and the guys are like,
oh,
hey, Lee, we need to talk with you.
Oh, God.
And he's like, yeah? And they're like, why'd you give us your roommate's name? And he's like,
he answered Lee. He answered Lee.
Yeah, he did. He's like, yeah. And they're like, why'd you give your roommate's name or whatever? And
no,
he's like, whatever. And they go, why don't you step out here? And they were frisking him and whatever. And Rob's like, tase him.
Oh, God.
And so we're like, you know, we're watching him get arrested, and you know, they arrested him for obstruction of justice and whatever, and took him to jail. And the cops are even, you know, they're cool. I was like, so, you know, what happened? And they're like, well, he got everything except your middle initial right. And I was like, well, good for him. I said, I really apologize. I should have said something to you guys. It just happened so fast. And they're like, hey, we got no problem with you. And took him to jail. And then he called to see if I could come bail him out, and I wouldn't do it.
Didn't you say
And then he missed a concert that he was going to go to with his mom, and he said that he had to study.
Oh,
and
my God.
He missed the concert because he was in jail.
And it was like a big concert, right?
It was the Eagles. I think it was the Eagles.
I think you're right, because I remember that. I'm like, oh, my God.
And this all blew up because it turns out he had been lying to his mom, and his mom had basically been passing those things on to my dad. And at some point that blew up because my dad came to me and said, hey, it sounds like you're not really the good person we thought you were.
Oh, that's so terrible.
I was like, what are you talking about? And he starts rattling a bunch of stuff off, and I was like, time out. I thought he and I were going to handle this like adults, and just keep you guys out of this.
Yeah, right.
If this is the game we're going to play, here we go.
Here you go.
I just unloaded everything.
Why don't you take a seat, Dad?
Yeah.
That's so bad.
So anyway, whatever. I mean, and my dad isn't married to his mom anymore, and he's off doing whatever he's doing. So whatever. Yeah. Water under the bridge. No real harm done.
It's water under the bridge, except for the fact that you called me one morning and asked me if I could help you move.
Oh, man. He was just a dirtbag. I think he just was.
So like you guys had to like be out of there. What was it, by the weekend or whatever, right?
Yeah. We were done and out of there, and you know, to get the security deposit.
He was supposed to be over there like on. I think you called me on a early Sunday morning or something like that.
Yeah, he was supposed to be over there all weekend.
Yeah, you said Friday, he was like, you're like, dude, he never showed up. He's supposed to be here.
He kept giving like stupid excuses. Oh, I'm gonna be there. And that's the thing is like he wasn't even the kind of dick that would say like, I'm not coming. He was like, oh, I'm on my way. Oh, right. I'm in Vantage, or you know, I'm in whatever, Cleellum.
Right.
And he totally when meanwhile he never left Woodinville.
So I come over. I drive an hour and a half from the west side. Yep. And we were like cleaning all day, dude. Like cleaning the whole day.
My sister even came over to help.
Yep. Yeah. Your sister came over. That's right. Your sister was over there. She's like busting her ass.
Because we were screwed. We were like he left the place a fucking bomb.
That place there was a lot of stuff. I mean, like you had that. Was it the backyard that was kind of like your guys' pile of?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Because Rob and I used to have. They made the mistake of the first time when we first moved in there, the Observer or whatever the newspaper was ran. Remember they had the coupons when in fall they had all the coupons for all the pizza places and all that stuff.
Right.
And they made a mistake of doing one at Godfather's that didn't have an expiration. So Rob just grabbed the whole pile of them, and it was like a buy one get one free for anything.
Oh my!
And so Rob
didn't have an expiration.
And pretty soon, like he'd give them to him, and he'd call because he did. Domino's had like the 2 for Tuesdays. So he would get 2 pizzas for Tuesday, and he'd eat one and then save the next one for the next day for after practice. And then Thursdays we would get the Godfather's jumbo all meat combos. And so we had tons of pizza boxes.
Didn't you say that you were like locally famous with the pizza establishments?
They finally just knew who we were, and they'd be like the usual, because they knew we had them. We had all the coupons, and we could have kept feeding them coupons forever.
Yeah.
And then eventually they're like, well, just tell us who it is. Like, it's fine. And so we did that for 2 years.
For 2 years.
Buy one, get one free at Godfather's.
That's amazing. Yeah, but
it was a lot of pizza. And so all those boxes never fit in the garbage can. And so we ended up taking it to the dump. Remember, we borrowed,
wasn't there a couple of full, like, giant...
It was a dump truck. We brought Brian's dump truck over, his 5-yard dump truck. And took it to the dump twice.
That's wild, man. I remember, like, and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to work on these 2 rooms. And I'm like, I guess I'll do, is he coming over? And you're like,
yeah.
I mean, he said he was, but that was yesterday. I mean, do you see him? And I go,
right. That's
I
still,
guess I'll
dude,
go
my
in there.
favorite part of all of that. I mean, I'll let you finish. Like, what you saw in there. I refused to even go. It wasn't that I refused. I was like, I'm going to burn this fucking house down if I look at.
It's it's just the general stuff that you'd see in a closet.
20-something raging alcoholic. I do remember all the wine stains on the floor.
Yeah, there was a bunch of wine stains. There was tons of like NyQuil bottles and
right. Well, I mean,
empty
he really
bottles
was
of
like
booze
he was
and porno
that's what he was
tapes.
He was drinking NyQuil and doing all kinds. Like, he was really not a healthy. I mean, if there is such thing as healthy, he was. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's another level. If you're starting to, buy.
Yeah, whatever. And again, I have some empathy, but also one of the coolest things that ever came out of that. Do you remember what came out of that?
Is that the name of the band? Like
the name of the band, dude. One of these days we got to start that band.
Yeah, but because like the whole floor was filled with pennies everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere.
With no explanation.
Okay, they're mostly in the closet. Like, you must have just got home and just threw his pennies in his closet. And then they were like scattered all over the rest of the room too. And I don't remember actually saying what I said, but I walked out and I said something to you.
Yeah, you go, it looks like a penny bomb blew up in there.
Yeah, it looks like a fucking penny bomb exploded in his room or something. And then, you just started laughing. You're like, Dawson's penny bomb. Yeah. It's kind of late.
I mean, here we are 25 years later. I don't know if the band's gonna make it.
So if anybody wants to use that band, please do it. Like, it's a name that it needs to be used somehow, sometime.
Dawson's Penny Bomb.
Dawson's Penny Bomb. Yeah. So after I graduated college, I moved into that apartment in
I remember
Federal
that.
Way.
Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah. And
I do.
And you know what's funny is about that place is it's actually a really cool looking place. Like,
it's super cool looking.
Yeah. It overlooks this cool like pond, all the different, vegetation stuff. It's really amazing looking. I've seen it online recently. I was like, you know what? I'm curious to see some of these places that I looked at and what they look like now, right? And I was just going to these places and I'm like, damn, that place looks just awesome, right? Layout's awesome, even inside the apartment and everything like that.
Yeah, and inside your apartment was awesome. It had like that loft.
Yeah, right. It was like
really
super
bright
cool.
And,
yeah. And it had that like balcony where it actually looked over that like pond area and everything. It was like really super. One of the coolest places I've ever lived, right?
Right. Except they built a moat.
What's the old saying? If it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
And
that place was
the best move that I ever made was signing a 6-month lease at that place. She's like, you want a 6, 8, or 12? And I'm like,
6.
I mean, 6.
Can I do a 3?
I mean, a 6 month, I guess. And like, that would happen to be one of the best decisions I ever made because in the span of just a couple of months, my car window got bashed out and all my DJ equipment got stolen. I think Andy's car got broken into. Ryan's car got broken into.
That place was nuts.
It was crazy, right? And the first clue should have been that they had 24-hour security that would patrol the parking lot.
Yeah, but those dudes were in on it.
You think so? Like, I don't know.
Those dudes were tipping people off when cars would come.
You had to think so, right? I mean, the thing I ended up loving most about that place was the review that you ended up writing. And Lee, what I'm going to ask you right now, I want you to do something for me. So I just sent you an email.
Okay.
The email, it's actually the review that you wrote, that I had you write for this place.
Rad.
And this was 20 years ago that you wrote this review. 20 years ago. I actually looked it up online. It's still there on apartmentratings.com. So if anybody wants to look it up, it's the Cove in Federal Way. You can check it out. Looks awesome. Place is great. Looks really cool.
When was this written? It had to have been like 2000.
It was 2001. It was because I lived there from 1999 to 2000. So this is 20 years ago that you wrote this review. And it's still one of my favorite things that you've ever done. So if you have that.
I have it. I'm looking at it right now.
All right. So I'm going to be quiet and you're going to read this just as you wrote it 20 years ago.
All right. This is a great idea, by the way. All right. The Cove Apartments, Federal Way. The apartments were all right physically, albeit expensive. However, the parking lot was a cornucopia of delight for car thieves and hoodlums. The lots were as dark as a Christmas without presents, which incidentally was also the day my car was stolen from the Cove, and the security guards moonlight as car thieves. In addition, there is a gap between the lot and the apartments that takes nearly a minute to traverse. So even if you actually witness a person breaking into your car, you can't possibly get to him in time to rescue it. The best solution I found in my time at the Cove was to simply wave at the grinning criminal and grab a beer. The cops only take about an hour, so relax and enjoy it. So if you are a former or current car thief seeking employment, or if you're simply in the area and need a ride somewhere, stop by the Cove Apartments.
Thank you, Lee. I must have read that review so many times, man, over the years. I just love it so much. I'd go like, is that apartment ratings like still online? Does that still exist? It does. I found it.
If you're a current or former car thief seeking employment, or if you simply need in the area and need a ride home.
Yeah.
Or need a ride somewhere.
Yeah. Do you remember like what we did? Like we
timed it. We timed how long it would take.
Well, yeah. And we went to my mom's, my parents always have that Christmas Eve party that they hold. And we were like, all right, Mom, well, thanks. We're going to take off now. She's like, what? You're leaving already? And we're like, yeah, we're going to.
Hey, you're out of lemon bars.
Yeah, we got something to do here. It's like, why are you guys wearing masks? No, just joking. No. No, but we're like dressed in black. We're all ready. We go up there and we're like, all right, so we're going to find these motherfuckers. We're going to bait them. We're like,
I remember that.
You remember that? We're like literally.
I do. I mean, I would have never remembered it had he not brought it up. But we're like, fuck it. These guys are coming back because they break into cars every weekend. It's got to be the same.
Especially on a holiday. Like that's got to be prime, right?
Oh yeah, with Christmas presents
we were so sure that they were going to break into the car. We literally were staking out the place
on Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I remember thinking the security they're in on it.
Right.
Because they saw it and they're just, that place had so many problems with car prowls. It would have happened on Christmas. Well, no question.
Don't you remember too, like so I remember seeing a study at one point that came out just right around that time that Washington State had 3 of the top 10 cities for stolen cars.
Oh, right.
And I know that Federal Way and Tacoma, they were definitely I think they were in the top 5 or top 7 or something like that. It was pretty wild. But yeah, so
no, it was definitely a bad time to. I mean, like especially if you had a Honda Accord. Like, I'm sure they were stealing the hell out of those. But no, I totally forgot that we went there and spent basically Christmas sitting there until
we're reclining
1 in the morning or something. I mean,
we're like, all right, I don't think it's gonna be happening.
I don't know. And thinking back, what the fuck would we have done anyway?
Yeah, I don't know.
What a dumb idea. That's youth for you. I mean, geez, we were only 25. Like we ought to known better, but like, what was the plan? I guess we could have called the cops, but
that place was crazy, man. So I got the hell out of there.
What's the worst place you've ever lived?
I really didn't live in too many horrible places.
I mean, that place you couldn't wait to get out. So that's why I bring it up. Is like, I think most places we kind of live in and we just stay there until there's a reason.
Does my parents' house count? No, I'm just joking. No, I don't know, man. Like, that's a great question. I don't know the worst place that I've ever lived because most of the places I was pretty careful about choosing. I've moved some of my friends into some really sketchy places. Holy moly.
You helped me move into White Center, as I recall.
Oh, that was awesome, though. Like, that was great.
Man, that place suited me at that time in my life, though. Like, I was fine with it. It was quiet as far as, White Center is White Center. It's kind of ghetto, but it's also, I was happy to just go and mellow out in my little apartment. And
one of the places that I can think of that place was super quiet. And you remember you saying, like, look, no one screws with me because I'm the white guy.
I'm the white guy. But also, dude, I didn't know this until after.
Yeah.
So I just did my thing. I mean, at that point, I was just going to work. It was right after the nightclub closed, and I had paid for, like, I think 6 months or a year in advance. And so the apartment building probably thought I was like a drug dealer or something. And I was the only white guy in White Center.
You paid. You're like, wait, you want to pay? Was it like 6 months or like a year?
It was 6 months or a year. I think I said
who does
I wanted
that?
to do
like,
6 months.
Can you imagine like someone like?
Right. And I think I wanted to do 6 months, and he's like,
it sounds like a drug dealer.
It does. And I had to tell him, I was like, dude, there's nothing wrong with me. I just don't want to have a bill. I don't want to think about writing you a check. I want to be done. You
pay a year's rent.
Right.
That's so funny, man.
Right. But then also afterwards, so I mean, I had my green bike and I had the 18 van, and
remember when I brought the Mexican flag over and hung it in your
yeah, dude, I hung it put it in my window. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
But no, when I got together with Jewel and moved into her place, I had my motorcycle in the garage, and we were having just some random get together with just a few people. There's half a dozen people or something. Mm-hmm. And we were there, and one of the dudes, I was just kind of talking to him, and we talked about bikes, and he's like, oh, let me see yours. I walk him downstairs, and he goes, hey, I know that bike. I was like, you do? And he goes, you lived in White Center, didn't you?
What?
Said, yeah. And I said, yeah, I did. And he goes, you want to know why your bike never got stolen?
No way.
I said, I don't know. I just always presumed it was because, nobody wanted to steal it. And he goes, no, you were a huge target.
Oh my God.
But we recognized you, and he said, we as the Seatown Riders. So there was a motorcycle group, whoever, the sport bike crew, gang, whatever the fuck they are. I don't know. And apparently when I was riding with Roman, we had ridden a few times with them and ridden hard and whatever. And he said, the reason your bike didn't get stolen is because we knew you rode hard, and we told everybody to lay off.
Wow.
And I was like, shit, I had protection I didn't even know about. So, because I used to park that thing hoping it kind of sucks. I hoped it would get stolen at the time because the insurance was more than the bike. And I used to park it out in front of my 18 van, and nobody ever stole. And then I parked it in my living room. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, I had no idea.
You guys definitely did ride hard. I mean, Roman.
Yeah. Well, there's
how old was he? He was like 25 or something?
Yeah, he's 25, I think. Yeah.
Jesus,
I can't believe he's been gone almost, 20, what?
Well,
20,
not 20 years yet, right?
Or no, I mean,
2006?
2005.
Are you serious? Wow.
No, 2006.
Was it 2006?
No, it was 5, dude. I think he died, July 12th, 2005.
Talk about another good guy, man.
He was nice. One of those dudes. He was just
so mellow and just so nice. Yeah. God.
Yeah, it's that weird thing though. Like, he and I used to have conversations, me and him and his buddy Justin and Byron, and because we all rode.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to have very candid conversations with him because he wrecked 3 bikes in 6 months. And I used to say, dude, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it if you ride like this. This thing is unforgiving. You can't do that and get away with it forever. And he would just kind of shrug it off, you know? And I remember Justin was getting married, and Roman was his best man. And he pulled me aside one time in tears, and he was like, do you think Roman is going to make it to my wedding?
Oh my God.
And I said, I don't know, man. I hope so. But Roman rode so hard, and I don't think he thought he was invincible. I don't know if it was a lack of, for all I know, that's how he wanted to die. I really don't know.
We used to have endless conversations about this too. Like, he's one of those ex-military guys, right?
Yeah.
So came back, and he's like, dude, I survived,
Yeah. And he had some trauma from that.
Yeah.
Definitely, I don't know the extent or whatever, but he definitely had some trauma from that. And to get in his head, I don't know, but I can say me and a whole bunch of other people really tried to get him to slow down. And it just, I remember when he died, I was like, well, fuck, I knew that it was tragic, but it wasn't a shock.
Right.
Cause I had told him, if you keep riding like this, it's going to catch you. and it did.
Ugh. Yikes.
Yeah.
Well, not to end on that. Jesus.
I know, right?
You remember when you were talking about the worst places we've ever lived?
Yeah.
Not in the sense that it was the worst place because of like roommates or anything like that, but remember the first place that I lived with James and Ryan in the Renton Highlands?
In Renton? Yeah, the Highlands.
Across the street from Jimi Hendrix's grave?
Yeah, yeah.
So that place, it was just a regular apartment, whatever, But remember what was wrong with that place?
No. I remember I used to break into it.
Well, yeah, everyone used to break into it because we didn't lock the back. So, no, but the thing that was wrong with that place, I found this out probably like the last 6 months.
Oh, the mold.
The black mold.
Yeah.
And I remember you, way before we even kind of it clicked in our head, you would sit into that chair, that one
right
chair.
under the window.
Yeah. And anytime that someone would be next to a window that was near the outside where it was like raining and stuff like that, everyone would be like, your whole body would go.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain.
Get all stuffy and yeah.
Yeah. And you're
had an allergic reaction to the mold.
Yeah. You're like, dude, what is this? Oh, because it's poison.
Right.
And then I would get that feeling when I would lay in my room because my bed was right next to that wall with the outside too. And I'm like, dude, it's this place. Yeah. And then we started reading reviews and we're like, dude, there's black mold all over this place. And I'm like, this place should be condemned, dude.
Yeah, they should have burned that place down.
It should literally be condemned. And it's still going. It's still going strong. I looked that place up too. Yeah. So.
Oh man.
Yeah.
You remember when I hooked up your guys' cable for free?
Oh God, which time?
Well, because remember
the time you got caught?
No, and you guys never got caught on that one because I hooked up everyone in the building. I just hooked up a bunch of them, so they couldn't tell who got.
That was it Alex?
That was down in
Alex is the one that got caught doing it one time, I think.
Well, it's sort of. So remember we were down in Battleground working in La Center.
Yeah.
And we had that duplex, and I just hooked up our cable. I went out and got in the box and hooked it up. Which was no big deal. Nobody saw it and nobody did anything. And it was back in the analog days where you literally just took a barrel connector off and away you went.
So
or you
easy.
put a barrel connector in and I was fine. But remember Mo.
That's right.
He was on the other side and he wanted to watch TV too.
Yes.
So he went out and just did it in, I don't know, broad daylight. It was a cable guy. He was parking and he goes, yeah, that guy was looking out the window at me. I'm like, what?
No. Here's why I remember this. Because Mo had me come out and we had a flashlight.
So my God.
We had a flashlight out there. So it looks like we're doing something shady.
Criminal shit.
Right.
So you were out there. That's right.
Yes. And I was like, I don't know about this, man. He goes, it'll take a second. And I'm like, I don't want to really do this.
I was so mad.
Yeah, you're like, dude.
I'd have been better off if he had said, hey,
because then they checked everybody's cable, right?
Well, no, remember we were sitting there and I had bought that TV down there and we had everything set up and I had the PlayStation. We were watching DVDs and stuff. And it happened to be a time when we were just watching a DVD and not the regular TV. Right. Because the dude came and he pounded on the door.
Oh, God.
And I don't remember who ran upstairs like, oh shit, it's the cable guy. And so we were just quiet. We had the movie on. We just left the movie on. But he's pounding and he's like, he's pissed off. God. And then we hear him go around to the box and we hear him thrashing or whatever. And he's almost like pulling the cord to see if the TV stops. And we just sat in there and then he comes back around and he pounds some more and we're just fucking hunkered in there. We're like, oh shit. And eventually he drove away and we're like, oh God damn.
How embarrassing.
I know that was. I mean, it's stupid too, because doing shit like that again. That was something that should have ended in, getting a ticket or whatever they do with that. It should have ended different.
Yeah, I'm glad that those are the crazy stories that we have. Really, yeah.
Man, I was I look back. I was always. I should have gone to jail a few times, and I was never malicious. I never wanted to hurt people. But I took a challenge. If I saw something as a challenge, I would take it. The neon sign the lit neon sign I took off the wall and walked out the bar.
That was at Dante's, right?
Yeah.
So in Dante's, which doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it burned down.
But Dante's, what a great bar. I love that place.
That place was rad.
Ted Bundy used to go there.
I know.
It's his favorite bar too. No, but Dante's was a great bar because we could go there on Thursdays and drink these $2 pitchers.
Remember when we first went there was $1 pitchers.
Yeah.
And then it turned to $2, which is still fucking insane.
We used to fill up those entire bar tables, and the entire. I have a picture of this somewhere.
Yeah,
with
we'd each grab 2 pitchers, and there'd be 8 of us, and there'd be 16 pitchers.
But then sometimes we'd just go down and grab 2 more pitchers.
Yeah, if they were starting to,
because it was from 8 to 10, it was $2 pitchers or $1 pitcher or something like that.
Right.
So we just literally just like, well, let's buy all our beer now. Like we don't care if we're 20 whatever years old. We don't give a shit. So.
God, I've got so many bad good memories from that place.
Right? Yeah,
but definitely one of them, and I blame them for getting us this drunk. But yeah, I looked up at the neon sign. I was like, I don't remember who I challenged or who challenged me, and I was like,
well, I think we were like, it had to be like me, you, Ryan, Kevin, one of those,
I'm sure it was
the classic, jerks.
The guy.
So we're all probably just, I think I eventually saw you like you unplug it, and I'm like, oh, dude, he's actually gonna attempt to take. This.
I mean, I think somebody said something.
And it wasn't like a small little, like tiny little neon sign. It was a big neon sign, a big giant neon sign.
Well, that's what made it a challenge, and that's what drew me to it. Like if you had said, "Hey, can you,
but I think
shove one of these empty pitchers in your coat and get it out,"
hopefully
I wouldn't have even bothered.
And you took it out, and you're like, but here's the thing. Hopefully they found that sign because you're like, what am I going to do?
Oh, they never found it. I had it for years.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I had it in. I had it in the basement bar in Ellensburg, and I had. Yeah.
Oh God. Oh,
no, I had it forever, and then it finally broke. No, they never found it. I felt bad for that waitress after you guys told me what she said.
What did she say?
Well, she came and she's like, "Hey, so where's the sign?"
Oh my God.
Like I don't know if you were there. Somebody was telling me, they're like, the waitress came. She's like, "Hey, where's that sign?"
Oh my God.
You guys were sitting here. It's gone.
Oh my God.
And they're like, we don't know. And I was long gone. I was out the door.
Right.
And I did feel bad because, I mean, look, that's a dick move. You don't steal shit. I mean, I owned a bar. I'd have been pissed if somebody stole a neon.
Right.
But also they get them free. I mean, I don't think
it's not like you're telling this story for the first time. You used to apply for the cops, and you'd always tell this story, right? Like,
I'd always tell them. Yeah. I'd be like, well, and I mean, because
they want you to be completely transparent when they don't want any shit coming up later or anything like that, right? And they want to know your character and look, whatever you did, tell us, whatever. And do you think that hurt your chances of? Do you think that story did that?
No, I think being too honest hurt my chances. I think those guys, learning after going through the background, and I mean, I actually got an offer with Medina right before we moved here, and I beat 1,000 guys out for that one. I still have the letter. I ranked number 1, passed the Chiefs interview, passed the oral board. I was ready.
Wow.
And then they required a 3-year commitment, and it was right when Jewel moved here.
Wow.
So, but no, I because I would explain to them. They'd ask about it. I'd go on the oral boards and they'd ask, or in the background they'd ask.
Yeah.
So what's this with you stealing signs? And like, are you a thief? And I said, technically, yeah, but really, there's sort of a difference between malicious. Like, I never stole anything. It was simply the challenge of it. That was it. Is I looked at someone and said, can I do that? And I mean, it's stupid and it's wrong, but I think they can draw that distinction. They would have arrested me if they had gone there, but no, I don't think that hurt me at all. I think what hurt me was that I was honest, because knowing what I know now, like I remember after one of my background checks where they called Brian, like he said something. He goes, "You told him that?" I was like, "Yeah, tell him everything." And he said, "Dude, they're never going to hire you." And one of his friends, Melanie, she was a state trooper, and she's like, "Yeah, they don't want to hear that shit. You don't tell. That means that you will narc on another cop."
Yeah.
So I'm happy I'm not a cop.
Yeah. God, yikes. Yeah, good thing you're not a cop, buddy.
I would have been a good cop.
Yeah, but
not a good cop. Like cops are different than I thought they were. I thought the cops were there to enforce the law, and they're not. I mean, they're there. I don't know. It's somewhere in between. I have a lot of respect for cops, and I don't think they're all whatever. But also, a lot of cops do need a kick in the nuts.
Yeah, that's a tough discussion because man, like growing up, I mean, everyone had their little problems with cops. It doesn't matter who you are, but
you have a run-in,
right? But like in general, I loved cops, but again, that has to do with a lot probably of who I am and how I act.
I think about even to this day, like I drive around, I drive fast. I still drive fast, and I don't worry about it. that comes from not ever having an experience where a cop has pulled me out of the car and beat the shit out of me for doing 10 over. And I'm sure that happens.
Yeah.
I like.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, it's reckless driving. Right?
But I mean, even that, I got away with reckless driving a lot.
I remember. They're great stories.
Yeah. And so, I mean, there's certainly that in terms of policing and all that stuff. I really am right in the middle of that sort of discussion with all that because of the experiences I had kind of dealing with cops and the experiences that I see out in the world. It's like, it's kind of right in the middle.
Yeah.
Like cops, you need like Seattle was a bunch of head crackers. Those guys needed to come down a notch, but they swung the other direction and said, now you can't police at all. And now they have buildings on fire and all the buildings in downtown.
Right. Remember when you lived in White Center? And that one cop, like, it was like a really sad story because, like, he's like one of those cops that the criminals even like.
He's the guy that I would have been.
Yeah.
Like, he was the really thoughtful, really good guy.
I mean, like, you would read all these stories and, like, all the criminals loved this guy.
Right.
And all the druggies and, people with, like, serious problems. And, like, this guy was, like, a genuinely nice guy. Like, he would give them rides and stuff. He'd like, hey, man, do you need a ride somewhere? Like, like one of those guys. And he would be, like, try to counsel people. And before, instead of, like, going to a place and beating the shit out of everybody, he'd be like, hey, all right, hey, everybody, hey, let's have a talk about this. Like one of those guys, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
he was kind of the far end.
Yeah.
He was like, that's the thing is you got the guys who will, beat the shit out of you. And then you got him. And probably the best cops are the ones that are in between. Because, it's the same with being a bouncer. You can't be a nice guy to everybody. Yeah. Occasionally, you got to
and then that guy
somebody.
ended up like going into a house and then go upstairs. And
they ambushed him and shot him in the head.
Yep. And then that was the end of him. So that's great.
Yep. Another reason I'm glad I'm not a cop.
By the way, can we stop going to this direction here?
I know, right?
All right,
Man, we got to Roman and then went downhill. Thievery and dead cops.
I have one more story. This isn't really even a story, but it's kind of funny. It has to do with, again, when I was looking for furniture for my house, for my apartment.
All right.
And do you remember when I was searching for a couch for my apartment?
I do remember.
And just thinking back to this, like, it makes me laugh because I keep picturing your face when we pull up to this one. We were looking in the newspaper or Craigslist or something. And we were even driving around to like old, garage sales, old furniture
and
stores.
Just driving around looking at curbs.
Yeah.
Trying to find a couch anywhere.
And we drive by this place. Where was this place? Was it in Tacoma or something like that?
Yeah, it was in Tacoma. Yeah, right off.
Oh, God. Lee, do you want to describe what...
Oh, man. Well, first also, do you remember the couch that you turned down before that one?
No, I don't.
We went to like, it was like an old lady it was a little bit different style couch, but it was the cleanest couch you would have ever, could have eaten off that thing. And you're like, And I think she wanted, but I think it was because it wasn't free. It was like, she wanted like $50 or something for it.
Right.
And you're like, And I mean, hey, money's money. I get it, but I remember thinking, dude,
well, again,
you're not gonna do better than this.
We're in our early 20s. We don't give a shit. Like, so we're like, that's a little out of my. That's beer money, man.
Yeah, totally. Right. I can find. You want a couch? I can find you a couch.
Right. Yeah. So we pull up to this place.
Yeah. Oh man, that was so gross.
Lee. It's been years. I'm trying to get this image out of my head. I can't get it out.
Yeah.
Can you help me? I need to get like hypnotized to get this out of my head.
Right. So imagine like Mama June or somebody from.
What's the lady from What's Eating Gilbert Grape? The lady. Just that's the best description I could come up with.
Yeah. I mean, without being unkind, a massively morbidly obese woman.
And by the way, it's hot outside. It's got to be like 90 degrees.
It's gross.
And in Seattle, when it's 90 degrees out, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like,
and we pull up, and I remember, and the thing had like tears, and like the cushioning was like, exposed
it was all
underneath,
stained and like just sweat
and
stains.
She was like half kind of laying on it.
Yeah, she's half laying on it. She doesn't have any shoes on. She's barefoot in like a
in
muumuu.
Sweats and
No, she's like in a muumuu.
Yeah. Oh man. And didn't she also wanted like $50 for it or something?
I was like, I look at Lee and it was one of those times where usually you're pretty straight faced, but you're trying not to laugh at this point.
I just remember being dumbfounded. I was like, "Are you serious, lady? Are you serious?
Right.
Like this is a legit thing?"
No, because like we were like, "Oh, where's the couch?" And she's like, "Right here." And I'm like, "Oh, I thought it was like inside. I thought that was just like an outdoor piece of furniture."
Yeah, because you called. I remember you called that one, and we drove down there specifically for it, so she knew we were coming.
Yeah, so we had to
That's the
go
presentation that we got. Yeah, it was bad. That
That's
was
the
really
presentation.
bad. And really what that should have been was a signal about Craigslist in general and how who you're going to deal with on Craigslist.
Totally. And I don't think it had a picture or anything like that. It was like, it might have been one of those like just ads that you see like in the nickel ads where it's just like a
Totally.
two sentence thing, like whatever.
Right.
I don't know, man. Well, hey, Lee, we're going to wrap this up, man. We've been going a while. So
Yeah. Well,
but I enjoyed having you on as a guest. You're like you're definitely like the Ed McMahon or the who did we decide that you are?
Steve Martin.
Yeah, Steve Martin. That's a pretty good one.
Or Guillermo. I mean, I think
you're better than a Guillermo. Like you talk a little bit more. It's not like, yes, Jerry. You know, it's a little bit more than that. Wait, that's not even Guillermo, is it? That's Adam Carolla's sidekick from the movie.
Oh yeah. Oswaldo.
Yes, Oswaldo.
Yeah.
But
maybe
yeah,
I'm Oswaldo because Oswaldo will come on there and talk.
Yeah. He's pretty good. I mean, can't really understand him, but yeah, you speak a little bit more clear, more precise.
I think you're being racist or maybe a little xenophobic, but
no, I don't think so. I don't think you just hey, can you speak another language fluently? Fluently.
No, I can pretend that I can.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, I saw your resume video. It's pretty good,
right?
Yeah.
It convinced a bunch of people. I got a ton of work out of that.
All right, man. We could do this all day. We could fill up an entire network.
How about the next time if you call me on as a guest, then I'm going to be a guest interviewer and be prepared to answer questions about you.
Well, you kind of did that today, and it was kind of cool.
Well, that was
you threw me off my my game, but I didn't hate it. It was interesting. So I appreciate it.
And it's got to be interesting because pretty much every story that you have about me is also a story about you.
That's true.
So it's not that hard to do. But yeah, we got to go in further depth.
That's true. Well, I don't know how long this COVID crap is going to last, but we definitely need to hook up again sometime soon. Maybe a little King Griffey Jr. baseball or some old school
that'd be awesome.
Nintendo of some sort. Some Tito's,
rad.
Some Boone's Farm. Yeah,
that sounds great.
All right, man. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. We're gonna have to do this a little bit more often now that we have the setup here. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I got the tech, and I think we're in good shape. So yeah, we can mess around and do these and maybe other stuff as well.
Absolutely. Hope your family's all well.
You as well.
Tell Jewel I said hi.
Yeah. I think she's coming home. She might be home now. I don't know. She's
awesome.
Just flying all around, and she's coming home, or she might be downstairs. I have no idea.
Fantastic. All right, dude. Well, it was good talking to you, and we'll do it again soon.
Cool, man.
All right, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Talk to you later.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends podcast. If you have any questions or comments about today's show, feel free to leave a message in the comment section below. If you enjoy listening to the podcast, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow the show. And check out some of the video clips posted on YouTube and Facebook. I'm Josh, and thank you for being a friend.